place of this system. And the thing is that this system is run on fear, it's run on a lack of morals, it's run on a lack of humanity. This system is a psychopathic system. It's run according to corporate and economic parameters whereby everybody is measured according to their economic value and everything is done to balance the books. And that's what's wrong with it. You know, it causes us to operate outside our moral compass because we're always balancing the books. You know, you can go to LA. I was in LA last month and there are so many homeless people in Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen. Thousands upon thousands of homeless people all over Los Angeles. And there are more homes that are empty in Los Angeles than there are homeless people. So how does that work? It only works because it balances the books to have the houses empty. You can't have people in the houses if they're not paying digits for use of the houses. If they're not paying the digits, then the people will be discarded and the houses will sit there empty because it's all about balancing the books. And that works fine in a corporate system. That's the way it should be in a corporate system. It all is balanced and that's the way it must be. You must pay for every aspect of your life. That's the way a corporate system works. And this functions because we do this and we go along with it because we're okay operating outside our moral compass because politicians write down legislation that says you must do this. You know, you've got all these homeless people in the middle of Los Angeles, but you're not allowed to go and feed them because it's illegal to feed homeless people. Well, what's this all about? If you're going to create an economic system whereby people are going to be discarded and you're going to have more empty houses than you have homeless people, and all of these people could have a house, not a problem, but they can't have it because of the economic value attached to it, and yet you're not allowed to feed them as well. Well, what's this about? How is this system serving mankind, and how is it that we allow this system? And we just think, oh, that's okay, it's law. And it's the law now. The politicians did this. They're doing it to protect us. We must do what we're told. People have got to stop thinking in this little box, ladies and gentlemen. If this is the way the system is going and this is the way our social structure is constructed, then how is this serving mankind? And how is the government not allowing you to feed homeless people and creating this situation to begin with, serving us or helping us or keeping us safe in any way? It's not. What it's doing is it's discarding people according to their economic worth. And when you see the cost of everything going up and, you know, you've got to work harder and harder and harder to pay the bills. Back when I was a child, your father could work 3 or 4 or 5 days a week and that would look after the whole family. Now you've got to have both parents working, the kids in daycare, the teenagers out doing weekend work or whatever, getting work as quickly as they can just to maintain the cost of the house. Because everything is going up and up and up because it discards society further and further along the way. Plus it trains people in the business world to behave more and more sociopathically because it becomes more and more about profit. And meanwhile, while you're doing this, it becomes more and more about efficiency as well and more about automation, which means more and more people get discarded along the way because there's less and less jobs. That's the way it goes. This whole economic system is designed to exploit this earth to absolute maximum and to discard humanity in the process. Discard humanity along the way by discarding those lower levels of the food chain, those lower levels of the social economic chain along the way, and creating a sociopathic society where it's all about you and it's all about your own personal wealth and it's all about this whole personal gains, this search for happiness that you believe you'll attain by getting all this stuff, and so you're quite prepared to step all over people on the way to get to this point. It's a very, very clever system, but it's designed to completely strip mine this earth and to discard the human race in the process. So if you want to know how to construct a new system, all you have to realize is that you don't have to construct anything. All you have to do is reconstruct what is in your heart and readjust your moral compass, because everything that happens in this system is due to our tolerance of wrong behavior. If we were to refuse to tolerate wrong behavior and do the right thing in all that we do, then we don't have to change anything about this system. The system has to change around us. It's a ripple effect. And why can't we do that? We can't do that because we stand disunited as a community. And so that's where the focus needs to be. Get in touch with the people around you and realize that we are all in this together. Change the way you interact with people and you change the world. That's how it works. You know, the system is not your friend, and we can stand against the system if we stand together. And it's important that we do it, because look what it's doing to the world, and look what it's doing to the children. And with the internet and what we've seen with this whole convenience society and this Internet of Things and everything coming online, it's also taking all of our life skills, and it's taking all of our communication skills. And it's tying the kids up in this superficial reality, which is completely disconnecting them from the world that they live in, and completely disconnecting them from themselves or any position where they'll ever gain any real knowledge of themselves. So it's very important that we look at this, folks. It really is, because this is not what this world is supposed to be, and it's not what life is supposed to be. Now, life is a huge creative experience, and we have a huge amount of creative potential within this experience if we can just regain some sort of a center and regain some memory of what we once were and what we could be, and really take a look at where we're going. Now, where this society is being led and who is leading us there, and who benefits from all these things that are happening, how do we benefit from it? How does mankind as a whole benefit from anything these politicians are doing, or from anything that's being set up around us? I really think it's about time we stepped back and took stock of all this, ladies and gentlemen, and really started to question what our quest for happiness is, and where this quest is leading us, and indeed what happiness is itself. Now, why do we think it is something external? Why have we been led so far away from what is within ourselves and what is available to us every day in this human experience? You know, happiness is all around you, just the joy of being alive. Waking up and seeing friends around you, waking up and seeing family around you, waking up and seeing the trees, hearing the birds. Just being alive in this reality is quite an amazing thing. And I know there's people that are in bad situations, people in war zones, people that, well, they're not going to really be able to identify with that. And I can understand that, and I can really feel and sympathise and empathise with the position that some of these people are in. But who I'm attempting to appeal to here is those in the West who have allowed our governments to create these situations in these foreign countries, because we can bring healing to these situations, such as what's going on in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Bahrain, in Palestine, everywhere. We can bring healings to these situations by rediscovering ourselves and stepping away from our governments and regaining some control of this earth, because most of the situations that are happening overseas in the Middle East and all of these third world countries have been created by the West. They've been created by our lack of morals, our willingness to step away from our moral compass, our willingness to simply pay protection money to our governments and allow them to do what they want to do as long as we're looked after. You know, this is a pretty disgraceful way to think, and it's a pretty disgraceful way to act. And this is a lot of the reason why people hate the West so much and hate Europeans so much. We see all of this talk about how the white people and white culture has done all this bad stuff. It's not really white culture that's done it at all. It's psychopaths that have done it, and they could have trained any culture, any skin colour to behave the way people have behaved. But ultimately, it's been a psychopathic system that has been brought to a point, and been brought to the very point it's supposed to have been brought to right now, so that the chaos we are now seeing could happen. Because that's what it's about, folks. Order out of chaos has always been the goal, and we're seeing that chaos right now. You know, the big World War III war of East against West that Weishaupt talked about, and this whole thing that was supposed to bring about this global slavery system. People are waiting for the big conflict between the US and China or whatever. They're not realising that this war has already been fought. It's been fought for a long time. It's a war that the governments are waging against the people, and the war of East against West has been happening ever since the 9/11 attacks. And it's all been leading to its inevitable conclusion, which is the smart grid, and that's all coming online now. But I think we've reached break time here, ladies and gentlemen, so I have to leave it there for now, and we'll go and have a break. Thank you for joining me on the air today. It's always a pleasure to have your company, and I'll speak to you again in a few minutes. Thanks for listening. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So you think about it, you know, you've got a situation where humanity is born and their default state is happiness, and you take that happiness away from them. And then you put them in a situation where the only way they are able to reobtain any thought of what that happiness may be is to search for it externally and to extract resources from the earth and climb the social economic ladder to get what they perceive happiness will be, to obtain this position of happiness. And really, it's the perfect way to run a people farm. You just lock people into this mentality, enslave them to an economic system whereby they are forced to strip mine the earth in order to climb to the top of the people pile, the social pile, the economic pile, under the mistaken belief that that is where they will find happiness. But just look at some of the richest people around the place. Look at some of the richest people in America, some of the richest people in Beverly Hills, for example. I don't know if you've ever driven around Beverly Hills, but the place looks like a fortress. It looks like a series of fortresses all gathered together on a hilltop. Now, all of these huge walls around all of these houses with all of these miserable people inside, all these very rich, very miserable people who simply don't know who their friends are because they're so rich that everybody wants to be their friend. So who is really their friend? Who wants to know them simply for them? Who wants to know them on a personal level simply for being who they are? You know, it's a very, very uncomfortable situation these people seem to have got themselves in. When you drive through Beverly Hills, you can almost feel the pain of some of the people through the walls of the fortresses that they live in. It just seems very sad to me. I'm sure they're filthy rich, mega rich. They can do whatever they want. They got their own private airlines. They can go anywhere, do anything. But it gets to that point, folks, when you can go anywhere and do anything and the entire world is your oyster, then suddenly you've been everywhere and you've done everything and you've seen everything there is to see and bought everything there is to buy. And where was the happiness in all that? Where was that thing, that little spark, that golden moment where your eyes glittered and your smile lit up for no reason and your heart jumped? Where was that moment? Was that anywhere in all of that stuff and all those places you went and all those things that you did and all this money that you collected? I mean, where was it? You know, many of these people get to that point where they spend their life doing this and they obtain this incredible status or goal or whatever it is they think they've obtained or had to obtain. And they get to a point where their life suddenly leapfrogs over themselves and lands in their face and they realize that it was all for nothing, that it's just this empty, hollow reality, and that really it was about life. But when you think about it, it's the perfect way to run a people farm. You know, you've got people out there strip mining the earth in search of happiness. This is really what's going on. You know, we're strip mining the earth and turning it into trinkets and selling the trinkets to people, and people are buying the trinkets and putting them on thinking, now I'm happy. Whether the trinket is a necklace or a castle or a house or a block of land or a relationship, whatever it is, it's not themselves. It's something that they're clinging on to try to fill that gap that exists within themselves, because they've never really looked there and they've never really stepped back and looked at life and thought about what it really is. There was a great talk that was put out by the philosopher Alan Watt many years ago when he talked about what if life is a dream? And what if when you die, you wake up? Wouldn't that be an interesting way to look at your life? Would that affect the way you lived your life, having that knowledge? If you were actually planning this out and this was a dream and you came here to experience this grand amnesiac reality with all of its pitfalls and all of its ups and downs and all of its trials and tribulations because you wanted that excitement. You wanted to see what you could create, and suddenly you get up to all of these really deviant things and all these bad things, and then you wake up and you go, oh dear, look what I did with that. You know, would you behave differently? Would you approach your concept of happiness differently if you knew this was a dream and that you were going to wake up one day? If you realized that the experiment was going to end and it didn't matter what happened, you were going to wake up anyway, and then you were going to be able to look at it all and figure out what it was all about then. Would that change the way you would interact? I would suggest that it would. It would change the way people would behave in this reality. But isn't it an interesting possibility of life being something like that? And even the concept of what heaven and hell may be. You know, just to get pretty out there and to get philosophical about it all, what if heaven and hell is something completely different to what people perceive it to be? What if this is truly an energetic universe, if this is a single consciousness, and you're simply experiencing one frequency, one aspect of that consciousness, the mind of God, whatever you want to call it? Now, if God wanted to create a reality, what would that reality be? How would God populate that reality with consciousness, with each individual soul? How would that be? Where would these souls have to come from? Well, of course, they would have to come from God itself. But what would that be? What form would that take? It's not inconceivable to think that the form this could take would be each person experiencing an individual frequency of the mind of God, and that there was only actually one of us here, and that when we return to Source, when we die and we return to that universal mind, we join with every other frequency that we've interacted with, and we read the experience that way. And imagine if you've gone through your life being a horrible person, doing horrible things to people, and all of these people that you were doing horrible things to were simply a different aspect of the same consciousness that you belong to. When you return to that consciousness after you die, you will suddenly experience all of that pain you caused all those people. And yes, that would be hell. That would be a real hell for you. But if you've done good things, if you've always helped the people around you, and you've improved the world, improved mind by your presence in that mind, and improved consciousness itself, and improved reality itself by your presence in it, by always giving, always being positive, when you return to that universal mind, that mind of God, then you will feel all the good and all the joy that you brought to all those people, and that would indeed be heaven. Now, is that not possible that when this happens, we are the ones who judge ourselves because we are all aspects of that one universal mind? Sure, it's pretty out there, speculative, philosophical ramblings, but hey, it's an interesting concept. And even thinking of that sort of concept and living my life with that kind of an understanding of what my connection to other people may well be. The whole concept of in Lakesh and what it means, or what it means to live your life that way, well, it certainly helps me live my life in the correct way, and it certainly helps me approach people in a different manner. Because every person that I come across, I approach as myself. Sometimes they may rub me the wrong way, sometimes I need to disconnect from them. Perhaps they're a reflection that I don't like, perhaps I'm a reflection that they don't like, whatever. Something's not there, so I just disconnect and move on. But with everybody that I come across, when I first meet everybody, I give them the benefit of the doubt. I give them the complete respect that I would give myself, that I would give anybody, because they are all ultimately different aspects of myself. And I feel that if we were to approach the world that way, and approach our interactions with others in that way, and treat each person as ourselves, we would change the world very, very quickly. It's just one of my personal philosophies, but it's an interesting concept, ladies and gentlemen, the concept that there's only really one of us here, and the concept that the heaven and hell that we may well experience will be that of our own creation, depending on what our actions are during this experience. And that sort of ties in with a lot of religious teachings as well. I mean, they tend to put a deity in control of each domain. I would suggest that there's only really one of us here, and that God, whatever it is a completely universal thing that encompasses every aspect and every consciousness and every frequency of that consciousness. Ultimately, all is one, but it must be broken into duality in this way in order to experience itself, and in order to have any experience at all. And what is God even? I mean, God is a word we use for that which we believe is higher than ourselves. And God is an interesting thing because it can mean various things to various people. You'll have people who are locked into a religious concept of God. You'll have the Christians who will say, no, this is what God is, and it does not work outside these parameters. You'll have people from other religions say the same things about their version of God. But even within those religions, each person's individual vision, their individual concept of what God is in their own mind, is something that is completely unique to themselves. Their relationship and their view of what this deity may be, or what it looks like, or anything, it's all completely unique to themselves. That's the interesting thing about your relationship with your Creator, is it is absolutely individual, and no one else will ever experience that relationship the way you do. But what is God? Is God a deity, as some people say, that sits on a throne, or is God simply a universal consciousness? Is God simply the energetic stuff of the universe itself, the conscious energetic fabric of reality. Many of the stuff that I have experienced in my life would suggest that this is what that force is. And for those people who are not religious, those people who may be agnostic or whatever, I mean, God is a name we give for this force because we simply don't have another one for it. And in order to keep it in perspective, that's the name that I'm using. So I'm not wishing to offend any religious or non-religious personages who may be listening to this show. I'm just simply putting it out there because I have to explain it in some way and I have to use a word for it. But my own personal experiences through life have suggested that the fabric, the energy that makes up reality itself is in fact consciousness. And that is what my concept of what God or this force is. It is the energetic stuff from which all consciousness comes from. And that is the pure energy that makes up reality itself, regardless of what shape or form or realm or dimension that reality takes. It can be anything this consciousness needs it to be in order for the experiment to be performed and for the experience to be experienced. I mean, imagine being that one universal, omnipotent consciousness, what it would be like. And people can say, well, you can never imagine what it would be like to be God. But imagine what it would be like to be that one universal, omnipotent consciousness aware of absolutely everything and everyone and every single aspect, every grain of sand, every atom of creation. Imagine being that aware. Really, it would be a terribly lonely place to be. And if you were in that position where you could create duality, I'm sure you would create something like the Earth simply to fool around and see what you could come up with. It sure would be far less boring than sitting there simply being God. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but you know, you've got to look at it this way and imagine how you would feel if you were in that position. And I'm not meaning to be presumptuous with saying any of this, or whatever opinion anybody may have of what God is, but I just think it's an interesting concept. It's interesting to entertain these types of thoughts and this type of speculation. I mean, as I've often said, folks, all I'm delivering you on these radio broadcasts is my perspective, and very often they're just free-flow rambling the way I have been today, just free-flow of thought. I don't really know where I'm going with most of these shows. I just sort of start talking and see what comes out, but I think it's very interesting to look at things in this way and to philosophize on some of these concepts. I mean, I think it helps. I think it helps your life. It helps you understanding yourself a little bit more. It helps you understanding how to interact with people and how to interact with the world a little bit better. You know, losing stake in the outcome of what you do. I don't have any stake in the outcome of anything I do. That's why I don't have anything for sale. I've never attempted to build a career out of what I'm doing or become any type of celebrity or achieve any type of status. I just sort of go with the flow, and I have no stake in the outcome of my actions. I have no stake in the outcome of my life. You know, far too many people have a stake in the outcome. That's why their life tends to leapfrog over itself and land in their faces, because they have had a stake in the outcome. And too many people, even in this independent media and truth community, have a stake in the outcome of what they do as well. You know, I can see a vision for humanity. I can see a better road that we could be taking. And so I offer my perspective on an attempt to perhaps influence people into making better choices in their lives and realizing that this choice is available to us, and realizing that all the things we're really facing in the world today have been a matter of choice. I mean, it's our choice as to whether to go along with this system. It's our choice as to whether to live in this people farm and operate according to its parameters or not. It really is. We don't have to do this. We have the strength of numbers to lead the world in any direction we want to lead it, if we could just gain some respect for each other. So I have every faith in the human race in doing that, and that's why I do what I do, because I can see a different way than the one we're going, and so I offer the perspective that I've got. And like I said, I think it does help. I mean, it certainly helped me interact with people a lot better than the way I used to, by simply looking at life from a slightly different perspective and letting all views come into perspective as well. I mean, letting all possibilities come into my mind and not locking myself into any belief or any need for any particular outcome in any situation. I don't need anything that I'm saying to be true. I don't need for what I'm saying to be right. I don't have any books involved that I need to sell. There isn't anything that I've said in the past and I'm not quite happy to change my mind about once I get better information and once I get access to more information. So I have no stake in the outcome of anything that I do. I can just see a far better future than where we're being led. This whole 5G smart grid, this whole Internet of Things, this is a bad scenario that we need to address. And even with talking out about this, a lot of people have said, oh, you're just against technology. No, I'm not. I love technology. I'm using technology to talk to you now. I'm using technology every day. I love it. There's nothing wrong with technology at all. It's just the direction that's being led and who controls the technology and what is possible from this smart grid, what's possible from this Internet of Things and this whole 5G weapons system, active denial system that they're putting in place. It's the possibilities of where it can be led, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's wrong. Now, when we've got a world that's run by criminals the way we have, well, why are we going to allow this to happen? Why are we going to allow these type of people to run this whole smart system, this whole surveillance grid, when we've seen what they've done to the world so far? Look at police in Australia being given the right to shoot to kill in Victoria. They're allowed to shoot to kill any terror suspects. You look at the arrest record. They claim to have arrested 39 people on terror charges and sentenced 19 of them and let 20 go. So under the new laws, none of these people would have been arrested and 19 jailed. It would have just been 39 people shot by police. Oh, sorry, 20 of them were innocent. Well, it doesn't matter, they were suspects and so we're allowed to shoot them. It's all in the law. See, we wrote it down on paper. This is the way it's going, folks. So, we've got to stand up against this system and realise where we're being led and what opportunities we have to take the world in a different direction, and ultimately that it's our choice in doing this. That's why I do what I do, because I can just see a better way. I don't think it's very smart for the human race to allow themselves to be led into the position that we're being led into, and I do have every faith in mankind's ability to turn this around. Some people say I'm a little silly for maintaining that faith, but I just believe in people. I think we can do this, I really do. I can see a better direction, and I just try to promote that concept in people's minds and try to promote empowerment to people, because I think that's really where we're going to make the difference. It's going to come down to the man on the street rediscovering themselves and stepping into the power of their own heart and applying that to the world around them. And I brought you this kind of philosophical, personal type of a show today because I've received a lot of email from people asking questions about going within, asking questions about fear, asking questions about how they deal with the world they live in, about how they can find happiness, how they can maintain through all of the knowledge that they're getting about this system. It's very difficult for people to look at all this stuff and maintain any form of happiness. And they ask how I'm able to do it, how I'm able to keep positive in the face of all this, in the face of all the personal attacks and all the trolling and all the stuff that happens. How do I manage to maintain a high energy? And again, folks, it's because I have no stake in the outcome. I don't have any stake in the outcome of any of this. It's just a temporary ride. This life is just a ride. Like Bill Hicks said, it's just like a roller coaster ride in a theme park. And when you come on, you think it's real because that's how real our mind makes it. But really, it's just a ride, and it's all about freedom of choice. It's about what we choose to do with this experience. And we have every opportunity to take things in a completely different direction if we can just overcome this inner fear of stepping into our own personal power and the inner fear we have of the people around us. Stop thinking people are your threat and you need to judge each other by the size of your front door. Stop believing that you need to do what's written on paper. Stop believing you have rulers. Start asking these politicians why they are standing in abusive office and how they can claim to have powers that you don't have. Remember that. Politicians claim to get their power from the people, but how can you give government a power that you don't have yourself? You don't have the power to tax people and put them in a cage, so how can you give that power to government where they now have the power to tax you and put you in a cage, and yet they claim to get that power from you? You can't assign and delegate a power to someone else that you do not have yourself. They just make the whole thing up, and it's time we called it, time we stepped into what we are. It really is, and that's why I continue to do these shows. But yeah, like I said, folks, I brought you this kind of philosophical show this week. I didn't think I was going to get a show out again this week. As I said last week, I didn't think I was going to have time, but I have managed to squeeze one out for you. But again, I didn't have anything planned at all. I just wanted to address some of the emails that I've received from people and some of the issues that they've been having with attempting to deal with this system. But we're getting very, very close to the end of the show here, folks. So I'm going to have to leave it here for now. I'm speaking at Swindon next weekend on October the 1st. There's still 5 or 6 tickets left for that event, folks. It's pretty well sold out. So if you want to come to the Swindon event, don't think you're going to get a ticket on the door. You need to get online and purchase one now. You'll find a link to that event on my website. You can go and get a ticket for that. 5 or 6 tickets left, so I would get in there now if you want to come. That's next weekend. And that will be the last talk that I'm doing for a while. I am speaking at Acapulco next February as well. If you want to go to the Acapulco website, just go to anacapulco.com. I'll put a link for you on the Crow House. And if you want to purchase a ticket there, if you use the coupon word Crow House, then I will actually get something for speaking there. And that would be wonderful. You know, if a few people actually sign up to go to Acapulco and they purchase their tickets using that coupon, they will get a discount on their ticket, and I will get the money that they get the discount on. So normally I'll speak at these events and I don't get paid, which is kind of depressing sometimes because I need money as much as anybody else does, and very often I don't get paid for any of these speaking events. I have to travel a lot to do them, so it would be a great bonus if someone is going to Acapulco, if they do use the coupon Crow House, and actually give me a couple of dollars for speaking there. That would be a huge bonus for me. I recently spoke at the Open Mind Conference in Denmark as well last week, and that was an absolutely fantastic event. Wonderful group of speakers and a wonderful group of people, simply wonderful audience, and really good to connect with so many people there. I'd like to put out a very, very warm thanks to Frank Rasmussen and all the people there who looked after me, all the people who organised the event, the people whose house I stayed at, that I will not mention their names. I don't want Israel to go firebombing their house. But I did meet a lot of really good people in Denmark, and it was an absolute pleasure to go there. And I look forward to going back there one day, but it probably won't be for a couple of years because, as you all know, this is going to be the last tour that I do for quite some time. I'm heading back to the United States in a couple of weeks after speaking in Swindon, and then I'm going to Hawaii for a month of Kambo workshops, and then I get to go home to Peru, where I'll be working on the film over the wet season, and I'll be able to get some regular radio shows out for you while I'm there as well. But this will be the last tour that I'm doing for quite a while. It's very interesting, folks. It started this year in February at Acapulco, and it will be ending next year in February at Acapulco. So it's been 1 year pretty well exactly on the road doing speaking engagements. There is a chance that I'll be doing another Kambo workshop in Hawaii in March next year as well. But I'll keep you posted about that as more details come to me. I am going there for a month of Kambo workshops this November, but I think that workshop is all sold out now. So if you didn't get into that one, you'll just have to have a look at the one that's coming forth in March. And that will be the last thing that I'm doing overseas for quite some time. I intend to take a little bit of time off and work on the film, keep the radio shows going, and actually maybe have a little bit of time for myself over the next couple of years because I've been very, very busy and I really do need to take a little bit of time out, folks. It's nice to travel, but the traveling does get very exhausting. Traveling should come with a health warning, it really should. I'm also doing Kambo workshops in Holland in early October. Those who are in the know how to get hold of me and know how to get hold of the person who's running the workshops. And so I'll look forward to seeing those who are in Europe who would like to come to a Kambo workshop in Holland. And as I said, the other Kambo workshops I will be doing will be in Hawaii in November. And there'll be more workshops in Hawaii again in March the following year. Of course, while I'm in Peru at Namayakaya, there's also going to be Kambo available there while I'm at the retreat. So if you're someone who's signed up for one of the retreats at Namayakaya, there's also a chance of me serving Kambo to you over the Christmas period if you're at one of those retreats. But folks, thank you to all those who continue to listen to the radio show. Thank you to all those who support the Patreon account. I could not do any of this work if it wasn't for you people. I cannot thank you enough. You are an absolute godsend to me. And thank you for allowing me to continue what I do and allowing me to keep this show on the air every week. It only comes from you people, folks. You're the only ones that are keeping me going. So thank you very much for that. I'll try to get a show out to you next week. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to because I've got to speak in Swindon next weekend. I've got to be travelling to England next Friday night as the show goes to air. I may be able to get one out. You never know. We'll just see what happens. But if not, then I will definitely get to speak to you the following week, and I'll try to get one or two more out this month before I get back to travel mode. But that is it for me, folks. Thank you for joining me on the air today. I'll look forward to speaking to you again as soon as I'm able. Please take very good care of yourselves until then. In Lakesh.
Round 2. Fight! Final round. Fight! Abigail fun! You win! Round 1. Fight! Round 2. Fight! Back off! Final round. Fight. You win. Round one. Fight. Abigail punch! Round two. Fight. Final round. Fight. Abigail punch! Abigail punch! Can't run away! You lose. Round one. Fight. Abigail punch! Back off! Back off! Annoying! Annoying! Round two. Fight. Back off!
It's go time! Let's do this!